In today's video, we're taking a look back at the very first Scream film, the 1996 classic that redefined the horror genre. With the franchise now spanning 6 films and a 7th on the way, I figured it was the perfect time to revisit where it all began. Just a quick spoiler warning, this video will be covering the full plot of Scream, 1996, so if you haven't seen it yet, you might want to watch the movie first and then come back. In the quiet suburban town of Woodsboro, California, the illusion of safety is shattered one evening when high school student Casey Becker is home alone, preparing popcorn for a movie night. She receives an anonymous phone call from a man whose tone initially seems playful, asking her what her favorite scary movie is. What begins as harmless chatter about horror films quickly turns sinister as the caller begins to harass her, revealing he can see her inside the house. His voice takes on a threatening edge when he instructs her to check the patio, where she discovers her boyfriend, Steve North, bound and gagged. The killer forces her into a deadly game of horror trivia, warning that Steve's life depends on her answers. When she fails to correctly identify the killer in Friday the 13th, she answers Jason. When the correct answer is Mrs. Voorhees, Steve is brutally murdered in front of her. Casey's panic escalates as the masked assailant in a long, black robe and ghostly white mask emerges, chasing her through the house and into the yard. Despite a desperate attempt to fight back and escape, she is stabbed repeatedly. In a cruel final act, her body is mutilated and strung up in a tree for her parents to find, leaving Woodsboro in shock and terror. The following morning, the brutal murder dominates the local news, and reporters swarm the small town. Students at Woodsboro High are shaken, but the killings have the deepest impact on Sydney Prescott, a classmate of Casey's, who was already carrying the emotional burden of her mother Maureen's violent rape and murder a year earlier. Cotton Weary, the man convicted for the crime, sits in prison, but rumors of Maureen's alleged infidelity haunt Sydney. The trauma has also put strain on her personal life, particularly her relationship with her boyfriend, Billy Loomis, who grows frustrated with Sydney's reluctance to be physically intimate. With her father, Neil Prescott, away on business, Sydney plans to spend the evening at home before staying with her best friend, Tatum Riley. However, the killer strikes again. Sydney receives a chilling phone call taunting her about her mother's death. Moments later, Ghostface attacks her in her home. Sydney narrowly escapes after barricading herself, but the ordeal leaves her terrified. Almost immediately after, Billy climbs through her bedroom window, seemingly there to comfort her. When his cell phone falls from his pocket, Sydney begins to suspect him, leading to his arrest by Deputy Sheriff Dewey Riley, Tatum's older brother, who awkwardly balances his duty with his protectiveness over his sister and her friends. Outside the police station, Sydney has a tense encounter with Gail Weathers, an ambitious tabloid journalist notorious for her relentless coverage of Maureen Prescott's murder. Gail publicly questions Sydney's testimony against Cotton Weary, suggesting that Maureen's affair with him was consensual and that Cotton was wrongfully convicted. The confrontation quickly escalates, ending in a heated physical altercation. That night, while staying at Tatum's house, Sydney receives another threatening phone call from Ghostface, proving that Billy may not be the killer after all. The calls are traced to her father Neil's phone, but his location remains a mystery, fueling speculation that he could be involved. The tension grows at school the next day when Billy, released due to lack of evidence, confronts Sydney. His insensitivity, comparing her grief over her murdered mother to his own mother's abandonment, further distances Sydney from him. The school erupts into chaos as news of the murder spreads, and in response, classes are suspended. Principal Himbry, the strict yet eccentric school principal, is soon murdered in his office by Ghostface, though news of his death spreads only later. To celebrate the unexpected closure, Stu Macker, Tatum's excitable and mischievous boyfriend, organizes a house party at his remote home. The event draws most of the school's remaining students, as well as Dewey and Gail, who position themselves nearby under the pretense of supervision, though Gail is more interested in catching exclusive footage for her news coverage. As the night unfolds, tension simmers. Randy Meeks, a horror movie fanatic, delivers an impassioned speech about the rules of surviving a slasher film.
You can never have sex. You can never drink or do drugs. Never, ever, ever, under any circumstances say, I'll be right back. Because you won't be back.
The partygoers laugh, unaware that death is closing in on them. Meanwhile, Gail and Dewey, patrolling the area, stumble upon Neil Prescott's abandoned car hidden nearby, heightening suspicions about his involvement. Inside the house, Tatum goes to the garage for more beer but is trapped by Ghostface. After a desperate struggle, she attempts to crawl through the pet door in the garage door, only for the killer to activate the mechanism, crushing her neck and killing her. Later, Billy arrives and privately reconciles with Sydney. Vulnerable and seeking comfort, Sydney lets her guard down, and they finally consummate their relationship upstairs. Their moment of intimacy, however, is cut short when Ghostface attacks. Billy appears to be fatally stabbed in front of Sydney, who flees in horror. The killer's rampage continues. Gail's cameraman, Kenny, is gruesomely murdered. Dewey is stabbed and left critically wounded, and Gail herself crashes her news van in a frantic attempt to escape, leaving her unconscious. Inside the house, chaos reigns. Sydney locks both Stu and Randy outside, each accusing the other of being the killer. In a shocking reveal, Billy emerges alive, seemingly injured but coherent, and allows Randy back inside only to shoot him in the shoulder. Billy unveils the truth. He and Stu are the killers. Together, they confess to orchestrating the murders, including the killing of Maureen Prescott. Billy reveals a personal motive. Maureen's affair with his father caused his mother to abandon the family, fueling his deep resentment and desire for revenge. The murders, along with their plan to frame Neil Prescott, are designed to shift blame away from themselves and immortalize them as survivors. In a twisted display of loyalty, Billy and Stu stab each other to fabricate believable injuries, but their arrogance proves their downfall. Gail, bloodied but alive, intervenes, distracting them long enough for Sydney to fight back. She incapacitates Billy and kills Stu by crushing his skull with a falling television set. As the night reaches its bloody climax, Billy revives for one final attack, lunging at Sydney. But Gail shoots him, saving Sydney. Remembering Randy's warning that killers always return for one last scare, Sydney ensures Billy's death by firing a final shot into his head. By dawn, the nightmare is over. Neil Prescott is freed, Dewey is carried away on a stretcher but clings to life, and Gail seizes the moment to deliver a live, impromptu news broadcast about the horrors that unfolded in Woodsboro. The town, once a picture of quiet suburbia, is left scarred by the revelation that its terror came not from a faceless monster, but from two of its own teenagers. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this breakdown of the first Scream movie and want me to cover the rest of the franchise, make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss out. I'll see you in the next one.